It began on a quiet night in the Atacama Desert of Chile. The stars were clear and endless, and the air was so still that even the sound of a distant wind seemed far away. Dr. Lina Reyes sat inside the small glass dome of the Atacama Deep Sky Array, watching a line of data run down her screen. Most nights were calm, the kind where nothing unusual happened. But that night she saw something that made her stop breathing for a second. A signal, a soft, repeating pulse, was coming from beyond Neptune. It was too neat, too perfect to be a natural sound from space. At first, Lina thought her system had a glitch. She ran the test again. The same result appeared, a pulse repeating every 7 seconds as if something huge out there was sending a message. She called her assistant Daniel, who was half asleep on a couch nearby. "Come here," she said quietly. "Tell me you see this too." He rubbed his eyes, stared at the monitor and whispered, "That's not random noise." Within an hour, Lina had shared the signal with 2 other observatories. The response came fast. Teams in Hawaii, South Africa, and India all reported the same reading. Whatever this thing was, it was moving fast, very fast, toward the inner solar system. No one knew what to call it, so they labeled it Object Cluster 39A. By morning, the whole scientific network was awake. Lina sat with a cup of coffee that had gone cold, staring at the data. 10,000 objects, maybe more, all moving in the same direction. They were not meteors. They were not comets. They changed speed together, like a formation of ships. NASA picked up the story 12 hours later. The emergency line from Houston connected straight to Chile. "Dr. Reyes," the director said, his voice flat but nervous, "we're confirming your readings. You're not the only one seeing it. Whatever's out there, it's huge." For 6 days, the world knew nothing. Governments locked down information to avoid panic. Satellites were re-aimed, and space agencies met secretly through secure links. But news has a way of escaping. On the 7th day, someone leaked the images to the press. A blurry photo of bright lines moving against the dark backdrop of space spread across every news channel. The headlines shouted, "An Armada is coming." People all over the world reacted in different ways. Some prayed, some laughed it off as another internet hoax. But deep inside, everyone felt the same chill. Humanity had always looked up at the sky and wondered if someone was out there. Now there was no wondering left. Something was indeed coming, and fast. Dr. Reyes became the center of a storm. Reporters surrounded the observatory, asking her if Earth was in danger. She didn't have answers. All she could say was that the objects would pass Mars within 2 months if they kept their current path. She spent long nights at her station, listening to that steady rhythm. She didn't know whether to fear it or feel honored that she was the first to hear it. Meanwhile, in Washington, London, and Beijing, special meetings were held. Old rivalries suddenly didn't matter. A decision was made to form a global group called Project Horizon, an emergency alliance that combined the best scientists and military experts from every major country. Commander Adrian Cole, a calm but serious man known for his honesty, was chosen to lead. Cole wasn't a scientist. He was a soldier who believed in unity. When he first saw the readings from Dr. Reyes, he didn't talk about war or weapons. He said quietly, "If they can cross stars, they don't need to fight us. Let's hope they don't want to." His words spread across the Project Horizon team and gave people a strange kind of peace. Over the next few weeks, space agencies worked together like never before. Old satellites were reprogrammed. New tracking systems were built overnight. Even private companies joined in, offering their best engineers. Humanity for once acted as one planet. By the middle of March, the Armada had entered the orbit of Uranus. Telescopes captured detailed images of the fleet. Each object was smooth and silver, shaped like a tear of light. They didn't spin or flash, they just glided together, silent and organized. The more scientists studied them, the more impossible it seemed. Their movement showed they could bend gravity itself. No known human technology could do that. Dr. Reyes noticed something else. The pattern of the pulses changed slightly every few days, as if someone was adjusting them after watching how humans reacted. It was like being studied by unseen eyes. She wondered if they knew we were listening. Sometimes she would stay awake until dawn, watching the signal fade and return, feeling both terrified and strangely connected to it. When the public saw the high-resolution images, the internet exploded. People made theories. Some said it was a natural event, others said it was proof of ancient myths. A few people believed it was Earth's ancestors returning. Despite all the talk, no one could explain how something that massive could travel across the void without being noticed before. In the middle of all the fear, a small but powerful thing happened. Human beings began to help each other more. Rival nations opened their research files. People volunteered to work in communication centers. Artists painted skies filled with glowing ships, and children wrote letters to the visitors, asking them not to be angry. In a strange way, the fear of the unknown brought out the best in everyone. By April, Project Horizon confirmed that the Armada had slowed down near the orbit of Mars. That small change meant intelligence. Nothing in nature could just decide to slow down. Dr. Reyes stared at the readings and whispered, "They're watching us now." One evening, she stood outside the observatory as the sun went down, turning the desert red. Daniel joined her. He asked, "Do you think they'll attack?" She shook her head slowly. "I don't think they came to destroy us," she said softly. "But they didn't come for peace either. They came because they remember something we've forgotten." In Washington, Commander Cole gave a quiet speech to the members of Project Horizon. "We cannot hide," he said. "If they came this far, they already know what we are. So we will greet them as one world." His voice was steady. "If this is the end, let it be the best of us they see." That night, a single radio message was transmitted from Earth, written in 118 languages. It said simply, "We are not your enemy." Dr. Reyes sat in silence, watching the signal leave the planet, traveling across the solar system toward the glowing fleet near Mars. For 37 minutes, nothing happened. Then every satellite orbiting Earth went dark for exactly 5 seconds. When the systems came back online, half of them had been quietly reprogrammed. No explosion, no attack. Just a demonstration. An unspoken message that whoever was coming could touch anything they wanted. Lena looked up at the sky through the glass roof. She wasn't afraid anymore. She whispered to herself, "They heard us." Far above, in the cold emptiness between Mars and Jupiter, the signal changed one last time. It became a slow heartbeat, steady, calm, almost human. And across the world, scientists felt the same quiet realization. Whatever was coming was far beyond understanding, and the story of humanity had just entered its most mysterious chapter. The world had changed overnight. After the signal blackout, people no longer joked about the strange lights in the sky. Everyone knew now it was real. Something was out there near Mars watching Earth. No one could see the fleet with the naked eye, but every telescope showed the same thing. Hundreds of shining points moving in silent formation, like a swarm of silver stars. At Project Horizon's headquarters, Commander Adrian Cole stood before a large screen filled with data lines. Behind him, scientists from different countries spoke in many accents, yet they all worked together with quiet focus. It was the first time in human history that all nations shared one purpose. They called it the Great Watch. Dr. Lena Reyes sat beside the communication array, her eyes red from long nights without rest. She kept studying the repeating signals from Mars' orbit. The pattern had changed again. It was slower now, like a breathing rhythm. When she showed it to Commander Cole, he didn't say a word. He simply nodded and whispered, "They're waiting." The United Nations held an emergency meeting that was broadcast live to the world. The Secretary General spoke carefully. "We are facing something beyond human understanding. We must not act with fear. We must act with unity." For a brief moment, humanity listened. Borders seemed smaller, and people began to look up at the same sky with the same question. Who are they? In every city, people gathered in open places at night to watch Mars glowing faintly red. Some brought candles, others telescopes. Children asked their parents if the visitors were friendly. No one had an answer. Inside the Horizon base, Commander Cole worked closely with 2 new members, Aisha Rahman, a brilliant engineer from Pakistan who designed communication satellites, and Professor Kenji Sato, a physicist from Japan who specialized in energy waves. Together, they formed the heart of the Earth response team. Aisha sat in front of the array screen, tracing a strange pattern in the alien signal. "They're not speaking in words," she said quietly. "They're sending geometry, mathematical shapes. This one," she pointed to a spiral of repeating numbers, "is like a map, but not of space. It's a map of frequencies." Dr. Reyes studied it closely. Maybe they want us to reply, she said. But how? If we send the wrong thing, they might misunderstand. Commander Cole looked at the two women and said, then we send something honest, something that says who we are. That night the world sent its second message. It wasn't made of language. It was made of music. Classical songs, heartbeats, laughter, rainfall, and the voices of children from every country. The signal left Earth bright and gentle, traveling toward the Armada. For 2 days there was no response. Then suddenly Mars's orbit began to glow faintly. The light was not bright but steady, like a halo around the planet. Telescopes saw thousands of the alien ships moving slowly into a ring formation. The sound from the signal receivers turned into a deep humming noise like a living vibration. Dr. Reyes pressed her hand over her mouth. They're answering us, she whispered. But not in sound, in movement, Aisha typed rapidly on her control pad. The ship's movements were forming a pattern, one that repeated every few minutes. She ran it through the code translator and gasped. It's the same spiral we sent them, only mirrored. Professor Sato smiled faintly. They understand us, he said softly. They know we're trying to talk, not fight. For a short while, the world was full of hope. People cried with happiness. News channels spoke of the first peaceful contact. Musicians made songs about the glowing ring of ships, and schoolchildren waved flags under the slogan, "We are one planet." But then, on the third night, something unexpected happened. All communication systems went silent. Every satellite orbiting Earth stopped sending data. The internet, the phone systems, even digital clocks, everything froze for exactly 60 seconds. People everywhere stood in confusion. Then the systems came back, but not the same. The code in every communication satellite had changed. Engineers found that a small invisible program had been added, one that allowed all satellites to align at once and point toward Mars. Dr. Reyes and Aisha worked nonstop to find the source. When they decoded the new program, they saw a single line written in binary. It translated to one word. Observe. The world panicked again. Some leaders wanted to destroy the satellites, but Commander Cole stopped them. No, he said firmly. They're not attacking. They're watching how we react. If we destroy our own network, they'll know we fear them. He ordered that no missiles, no weapons, and no military actions be taken. Instead, he asked for calm observation. The United Nations agreed. It was a bold and risky choice. Meanwhile, strange things began to happen in space. The Mars Recon Orbiter captured images of a bright, moving pattern above the planet's surface. It looked like a web of silver threads glowing softly, stretching hundreds of kilometers across. Scientists named it the lattice. When Dr. Reyes studied the energy readings, she noticed something impossible. The lattice was not a solid structure, it was pure energy folded in on itself. Its signature matched no known material. She whispered, "This is beyond technology. It's like they're shaping gravity." Aisha stared at the numbers on her screen and added, "Or maybe they're protecting something." Across the world, people began to call it the Shield of Mars. Artists drew it as a halo of light. Some said it was a warning, others said it was a promise. One evening, Commander Cole gathered his small team in the observatory room. The air was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. "We have no proof they mean harm," he said slowly. "But we have proof they are powerful. More powerful than we can imagine. Our job is to learn, not to panic." Dr. Reyes looked at him and asked, "What if they came here because of something we did in the past?" Cole frowned slightly. "You think this isn't the first time?" She nodded. "What if they've been here before, long before we existed?" The thought hung in the air. No one spoke for a long time. Outside the observatory window, the sky was full of stars, but one of them, the red glow of Mars, seemed brighter than ever, pulsing faintly, like a slow heartbeat. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She walked outside the base and looked up at the stars. The desert air was cold and the silence around her felt ancient. She remembered the line of code. Observe. Maybe they weren't just watching Earth's machines. Maybe they were watching the hearts of its people. She closed her eyes and whispered softly, "If you can hear us, we're trying to be better." Far away, the lattice around Mars shimmered again, just for a moment. The light rippled like a soft wave across space, then faded. Inside the Horizon base, Commander Cole watched the readings on the main screen. The pulse rate of the alien signal had changed once more. It was now perfectly in sync with Earth's rotation. Cole stood silently. They're timing themselves with us, he said quietly. Whatever comes next will happen soon. And as the world turned under a silent, glowing sky, humanity waited, united by fear, hope, and the unshakable feeling that the visitors had not come to conquer, but to remind. The silence that followed felt heavier than sound. After the alien ships formed the shining ring around Mars, everything went quiet. There were no more pulses, no new signals, no strange lights, just stillness. It was as if the entire fleet had gone to sleep, or was waiting for something. Inside Project Horizon's control center, the atmosphere was tense. Commander Adrian Cole sat beside Dr. Lena Reyes and Aisha Rahman, both staring at their screens filled with repeating lines of data that never changed. The only sound was the soft ticking of the clock. It's been 3 days, Aisha said softly. No movement, no signal. Dr. Reyes nodded. They stopped everything. Even the radiation pattern is flat. Commander Cole rubbed his chin. They're not gone. They're waiting. Everyone in the room could feel it, the strange pressure in the air like a calm before a storm that might never come. Scientists across the world watched Mars day and night. Every telescope on Earth pointed toward the same red planet. Then, one morning, something changed at 02:17 GMT. The Mars Recon Orbiter detected a flash of light behind Phobos, one of Mars's small moons. The flash wasn't bright, but it was steady, like a signal being born. When Dr. Reyes saw the data, her hands trembled. They're building something, she said. Images from the orbital cameras showed a strange structure forming. It looked like a thin web of silver light, spreading slowly across the dark space near Mars. It wasn't solid. It shimmered like water, bending and folding in patterns that no human could understand. Professor Sato, the physicist from Japan, stared at the readings. It's not a weapon, he said softly. It's a field. Maybe a kind of energy fabric. Commander Cole asked. A shield? Maybe, Sato replied. Or maybe something else. Something meant to hide them or to show us something. Dr. Reyes zoomed in on the readings. The structure pulsed in perfect rhythm, matching the earlier signal patterns. It's alive, she whispered. Not in the way we think, but alive in behavior. The world's media exploded with theories again. Some said the aliens were preparing to attack. Others believed they were building a gate, a bridge to another world. But deep down, many felt something different. The energy readings from the structure had a strange harmony to them. The frequencies formed soft musical tones like a deep, endless choir humming across space. Lena sat in the control room late that night, alone except for the hum of machines. She turned the alien frequencies into sound and listened through her headphones. It was haunting and beautiful. It didn't feel like a message of fear. It felt like remembrance, like something ancient calling back across time. As she listened, she noticed something odd. The tone changed every few minutes, repeating a small rise in pitch. She ran the pattern through the old Voyager Golden Record data, the one humanity had sent into space in 1977. Her screen froze, then displayed a result that made her heart race. The pattern matched part of the Voyager transmission, the same melody from Beethoven's Symphony No. 5, one of the songs sent into space to show who humans were. She gasped. They're answering the Voyager, she said to herself. In the morning, she showed the discovery to Commander Cole and Aisha. Aisha's eyes widened. You're telling me they heard the message we sent almost 70 years ago? Not just heard it, Lena said softly. They're sending it back to us. Like they're saying, we remember you. Cole stared at the screen. Then maybe they're not strangers. Maybe they've known us for a long time. The discovery spread quickly through Project Horizon. For the first time, fear began to turn into wonder. Maybe these visitors weren't invaders at all. Maybe they were guardians or explorers from a civilization that had watched humanity's growth from afar. Still, the unknown weighed on everyone. Governments remained on alert, though no one dared to make the first move. People around the world began holding nightly sky gatherings again. Children wrote messages on paper planes and launched them into the air, believing somehow the guardians could see their hopes. A week later, another strange thing happened. Without warning, all of humanity's oldest space probes, Voyager 1, Voyager 2, New Horizons, and even the silent Pioneer crafts, came online at the same time. They had been silent for years, drifting at the edge of the solar system, But now they all transmitted identical messages. Each message contained coordinates pointing to the space between Mars and Io, Jupiter, and a short digital code made of symbols no human system could have written. When decoded, the symbols translated into a simple phrase: "We remember the covenant." The word sent chills across the world. Scientists tried to explain it as a glitch or a data reflection, but the timing was too perfect. Every probe had sent the same message at the same second, using the same frequency. Commander Cole gathered his team. "If this isn't coincidence," he said, "then something or someone has control over every probe we ever launched." Aisha leaned back in her chair. "Maybe it's the same beings who saved us before." Cole frowned. "Saved us?" She nodded. "Maybe humanity has faced something like this long ago and they stepped in." "Maybe this is what they meant by the covenant," Dr. Reyes whispered. "Guardians of life." Her voice trailed off as if she was speaking to herself. The message, "We remember the covenant," spread across the world's networks. Many thought it meant protection, others thought it was a warning. But no matter what people believed, everyone could feel that something bigger than human understanding was unfolding. Then came the quiet before the greatest event in history. On June 4, 2039, all sensors across Earth recorded a sudden rise in energy near Mars. The ring of alien ships began to glow brightly, like 1,000 suns. The shimmering web expanded until it covered the entire orbit of Mars, forming a perfect circle. For a few seconds, it looked like a giant mirror reflecting the sunlight. Then everything went still. "Are they leaving?" Aisha whispered. Dr. Reyes shook her head. "No, they're preparing." The hum in the signal changed again. Soft, steady, like the low note of a deep bell. All satellites around Earth began to shake slightly, as if responding to the same rhythm. Then all at once, the alien signal stopped. The screen went blank. "Contact lost," a technician said in shock. "Every radar reading just dropped to 0. Commander Cole leaned forward. "Get visual confirmation." The cameras turned toward Mars. The ring of light was still there, but the ships were gone. One by one, their shapes faded until nothing remained but the glowing web around the planet. The fleet that had once filled half the sky was erased in seconds. No explosion. No debris, no trace. Just silence. Dr. Reyes stared at the empty readings with tears in her eyes. "They didn't vanish," she said softly. "They were removed." Cole turned toward her. "By what?" She looked at him, her eyes reflecting the dim light of the screens. "By something older than them. Maybe older than us all." Far beyond the reach of Mars, the Voyager probe sent one final image before going silent again. It showed a faint engraving on a metal surface, glowing softly. 3 words were written there, barely visible. "Guardians of life." Dr. Reyes felt her breath catch. She whispered, "They came not to fight, but to protect." And as the world watched the silent, empty orbit of Mars, humanity realized that something greater than war, fear, or power had just happened. A cosmic act that erased danger before it ever reached Earth. But no one knew who the Guardians were. And somewhere beyond the stars, something watched and waited. The whole world stopped the day the Armada vanished. There were no bright flashes in the sky, no explosions, no smoke, just a sudden and total emptiness around Mars. One moment, thousands of ships filled the orbit. The next, there was only silence. At Project Horizon's base, no one spoke for a full minute. The monitors showed flat lines. All energy readings dropped to 0. Commander Adrian Cole stood frozen, his hands gripping the table. "Run the scan again," he said finally. His voice was calm, but his eyes showed disbelief. Aisha Rahman pressed the keys, running another check. "There's nothing, sir," she said quietly. "It's like they were never there." Dr. Lena Reyes stared at the blank screen. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "That's impossible. 10,000 objects can't just disappear." Professor Sato leaned closer to the data feed. "Unless," he said softly, "they were taken somewhere beyond our perception." Cole turned to him. "You mean another dimension?" Sato nodded. "Maybe. Or maybe they were neutralized by something outside our physics. We're looking at an event we cannot measure. The official report called it the erasure. Scientists across the world tried to explain it. Some said the Armada had activated a self-destruct field. Others believed a higher force had intervened. But deep down, Many felt what Dr. Reyes had already whispered. Something had protected Earth. For the first few hours after the event, the communication lines were filled with chaos. News channels screamed headlines about the miracle at Mars. People went outside to stare at the faint red planet glowing peacefully again. Some prayed, others wept, and yet in the middle of confusion, there was a strange sense of calm. Humanity had faced the unknown and survived. Inside Project Horizon, the team worked around the clock. Aisha found an unusual reading on one of the satellite archives. During the exact second the Armada vanished, there had been a powerful pulse of energy, a circular wave expanding outward from Mars. It lasted less than half a second, but it traveled at light speed. Dr. Reyes studied the data closely. It wasn't an explosion, she said. It was like a signature, a stamp in space. Can we decode it? Commander Cole asked. They converted the pulse pattern into visible form. When the image appeared on the screen, the room went silent. It showed a glowing ring around Mars, perfectly symmetrical. And in the center, faint symbols were burned into the pattern, 3 words that no one had placed there. Guardians of life. No one moved. Dr. Reyes felt tears fill her eyes. It's the same phrase from the Voyager transmission, she whispered. They left their mark. Commander Cole looked at the screen for a long time before saying quietly, they didn't just erase the fleet, they protected us. The question is, from what? Professor Sato folded his hands thoughtfully. Maybe those ships weren't the Guardians. Maybe they were the danger, and something greater stopped them. The idea sent chills through everyone in the room. News of the strange inscription spread worldwide. Scientists from different countries confirmed that the phrase wasn't a trick of light. It was real energy, imprinted on the space near Mars's orbit. People began calling it the halo of Mars. Churches called it a divine act. Astronomers called it a cosmic mystery. But to Dr. Reyes and her team, it was something in between. A message from beings far older than anyone could imagine. Days turned into weeks. The energy around Mars slowly faded, but the faint halo remained visible through deep space telescopes. It pulsed every few hours like a heartbeat in the dark. Commander Cole refused to disband Project Horizon. He said, we may not understand what happened, but the universe just told us we are not alone. We owe it to ourselves to listen. One evening, Lena sat alone in the observatory room, watching the faint glow of Mars through the glass dome. She remembered the early days of fear and panic, the endless nights waiting for signals, and now this strange peace. She felt small but not hopeless. Daniel, her assistant, walked in quietly. You've been here all day, he said. She smiled faintly. I know, I just can't stop looking. It feels like they're still out there. Watching, he nodded. Do you think they'll ever come back? Lena thought for a moment. Maybe they never left. Meanwhile, Aisha Rahman discovered something unusual in the satellite logs. When she magnified the final transmission from the alien fleet, there was a tiny fragment of sound buried in the static, too faint for the human ear. She filtered it carefully, boosting the frequency until it became clear. It was not a word, but a tone, a low hum that matched the resonance of Earth's magnetic field. She played it for Commander Cole and Lena. The sound filled the room, deep and peaceful. It almost felt alive. What does it mean? Cole asked softly. Aisha smiled faintly. It's harmony. They left us a song. Dr. Reyes closed her eyes, listening. For a brief moment, she imagined vast, gentle beings watching over the stars. Guardians who remembered the small blue world that once sent them a record of laughter, rain, and music. Maybe they had always been near, invisible until the moment humanity truly needed them. Over the next months, humanity began to change. Government started new space programs, not for war but for unity. People spoke of the covenant, the bond between life across worlds. Schools taught about the event not as a victory, but as a reminder. That life, wherever it existed, was meant to be protected, not destroyed. In November of that year, Commander Cole addressed the United Nations for the last time. His speech was calm and full of gratitude. We were saved, he said, not by our strength but by something greater, something that remembered us. We don't know who they are or why they care, but we have been given a second chance. Let's not waste it. His words were broadcast around the world. Millions listened in silence. Some cried. Others looked at the night sky with renewed hope. Dr. Reyes retired soon after. She went back to Chile, to the same observatory where it all began. Every evening she sat outside, a blanket around her shoulders, watching Mars glow faintly in the west. Sometimes she thought she could see the halo pulse once, softly as if answering her gaze. One night, while she sat under the cold desert stars, she whispered, "Thank you, whoever you are." The wind was still, but somewhere in the distance, the ground seemed to hum faintly, just for a moment, as if the universe itself had answered. Back at Project Horizon, Aisha continued her research on the energy field that remained near Mars. She discovered it was still active, though invisible to normal sensors. "It's like a shield," she told her team. "Maybe they left it here, to protect us again if we ever need it." Commander Cole, now older, lived quietly in Nevada. He often sat outside his small house at night looking at the stars. To his friends, he would sometimes say, "The sky isn't empty anymore." Every June 4th, a faint pulse could be detected from Mars, exactly at the same time the fleet had vanished. The pulse lasted less than a second, repeating only once a year. Scientists said it was a natural reflection, but for those who believed it was a message. Dr. Reyes passed away many years later. In her notebook, found beside her telescope, she had written one final line. Many years had passed since the erasure. The world had changed in ways no one could have imagined. There were no longer wars between nations, no secret space weapons, no race for dominance. The memory of the event near Mars had humbled everyone. People had learned that strength was not in destruction but in survival, unity, and peace. Project Horizon was officially closed in 2041. The government said the threat was gone and that Earth was safe. But for the people who had been there, Commander Adrian Cole, Aisha Rahman, and a few others, the questions never stopped. What really happened to the alien Armada? Who were the Guardians? Why had they protected humanity? Even after the project ended, the old team stayed in contact. Every few months, they met quietly in a small observatory in the Nevada desert, the same place where Cole lived after retirement. They didn't meet as officials or scientists anymore, just as friends who had shared something the rest of the world would never understand. On one of those quiet evenings, Cole stood outside the observatory, the wind soft around him. Aisha joined him, carrying 2 cups of tea. The sky was clear, filled with millions of stars. Mars shone red and bright, its halo faint but still visible through a telescope. "Still glowing," Aisha said softly. Cole nodded. It never faded. They stood in silence for a while. Then Aisha said, "I keep thinking about the phrase they left, guardians of life. Maybe that's not just about us. Maybe they protect every world that learns to value life more than power." Cole smiled faintly. "Maybe that's the test. Maybe the universe only lets a species survive if it can understand that lesson." They went inside, where the rest of the old team was waiting. Professor Sato, Daniel, and 2 younger scientists who had been inspired by the Project Horizon archives. Together, they reviewed the latest readings from Mars. Every June 4th, without fail, the pulse came again, a soft, 1-second heartbeat of light. "It's always the same," Sato said, pointing at the data. "Same timing, same strength, same message." Aisha leaned over the monitor. "But maybe the meaning changes each time." Dr. Reyes wasn't there anymore. She had passed away peacefully years earlier, but her words remained in the notebooks she left behind. One of them was always kept on the main table. The cover was old, the corners worn, and on the first page she had written, "We were remembered." Every year, on the anniversary of the erasure, the world paused for 1 minute of silence. People looked toward Mars and remembered the day humanity survived something that should have ended it. Schools taught it not as a tale of fear, but as a story of gratitude. They called it Guardian Day. Children grew up knowing that somewhere out there, someone had cared enough to protect them. The idea changed how people thought about life. Space exploration became a mission of peace. Instead of building weapons, nations built observatories. Instead of racing to claim planets, they worked together to learn about them. Humanity's spirit had finally matured. In 2050, a new space telescope, the Reyes Array, was launched in honor of Dr. Lina Reyes. It was placed beyond the moon, where it could see deep into the solar system without interference. Its first focus was Mars. For months, it studied the faint halo still surrounding the red planet. The data it sent back surprised everyone. The halo wasn't fading. It was growing denser, more structured. Inside it, fine patterns began to appear. Geometrical designs like spirals and waves, shifting slowly as if alive. Scientists couldn't explain it. Some thought it was a leftover energy field. Others believed it was a sign the Guardians had left something behind, a kind of living code, watching silently over the solar system. When Aisha saw the patterns, she smiled quietly. "It's them," she said. "They're reminding us they're still here." Commander Cole, now older and slower, visited the Reyes Array Control Center that year. He looked at the images of the glowing halo on a massive screen. "We were saved once," he said softly. "Maybe this time we're being prepared." That night he went home and wrote a letter, his last one, to be kept in the Horizon archives. It said, "If one day they return, tell them we tried to be worthy of the second chance they gave us." He died peacefully a few months later, under a clear desert sky. At his funeral, a faint red light shimmered above the horizon for just a moment, though Mars was not visible that night. The few who noticed it said nothing, but each of them felt a strange comfort in their hearts. Years turned into decades. Humanity expanded peacefully into space. Bases were built on the Moon and Mars. The first colony under the Martian sky was named Haven 1. The settlers there often spoke of a soft hum they could hear at night, deep in the walls of the base, like a song from the ground itself. When scientists tested it, they discovered that the hum matched the frequency of the pulse from the Guardian's halo. It was as if Mars itself was singing, a planet that remembered the miracle that had saved two worlds, its own and Earth's. One day, a child living in the Mars colony asked her teacher, "Do you think the Guardians will come back?" The teacher smiled. "Maybe they never left," she said. "Maybe they're part of this place now, watching, making sure we stay good." The little girl nodded thoughtfully and looked up at the pale pink sky. "Then I'll wave to them every night," she said. Back on Earth, the pulse still appeared once a year, always on June 4th. By then, people no longer feared it. They called it the reminder. Families gathered in parks and rooftops to watch Mars and whisper the same words Dr. Reyes once wrote. "They saved us because we were alive." The world had changed forever because of that belief. And though no one ever saw the Guardians again, their presence lived in the hearts of every person who looked at the stars with wonder instead of fear. On the 100th anniversary of the erasure, the largest gathering in human history took place. Billions watched as the sky lit up with small lights, drones carrying symbols of peace, orbiting Earth in gentle formation, forming the same circular pattern the alien fleet had once made near Mars. The crowd cheered, and at that exact moment telescopes detected something extraordinary. A new signal came from deep space. It wasn't strong, but it was clear. It carried the same harmonic tone as the ancient Voyager response. And this time, when translated, it formed words in perfect human language. The message said, "We see your light. You have kept the covenant." Silence followed, but not the kind of silence that brings fear. It was the quiet of peace, of understanding that humanity was finally ready to stand among the stars, not alone, but remembered. From that day on, people no longer asked if the Guardians existed. They simply lived as if they did, kind, careful and hopeful, and every night, when Mars glowed faintly in the sky, its soft halo pulsed once, like a living heartbeat, reminding Earth that somewhere out there, beyond time and distance, the Guardians of life still watched over the little blue world they had once saved.